Gartner defines robotic process automation as a productivity tool that allows users to configure one or more scripts to activate specific keystrokes in an automated fashion. Now, the result is that bots can be used to mimic or emulate selected tasks within an overall business or IT process. As we come to 2 decades of RPA awareness and experience, is it time to move on? Are we ready for hyperautomation? In this VODchat for FutureCIO, we are joined by Arvind Sundaresan, Vice President Customer Success for Asia Pacific and Japan at UiPath, to recap RPA adoption and whether we are ready to move to hyperautomation. RPA has been a buzzword for some time now. Do companies, particularly in Asia, understand what RPA is and isn't?
So Alan, good question, right? We see different understanding for different customers based on one, the industry they come from, the country and market from which they engage with us, as well as where they are today with regards to the adoption of RPA within the organization as well. We still see, at least in Asia Pacific and Japan, many customers are still starting their journey on RPAs. So they're still at 1.0 phase. They're still trying to understand and do pilots and proof of concepts to figure out how they can leverage the platform and technologies and maximize value from a business perspective. There are a lot of corporates and enterprises who have gone to a matured learning curve as well, right? People have been using RPA for the last 3 to 5 years, and they are currently looking at how do they mature what they have done initially in the last 3 to 5 years and do more and more business processes end to end from an enterprise-wide adoption perspective as well. So it kind of varies based on industries and verticals. Some industries stand out. Financial services as an example, it's very matured as compared to the rest in this region, but still they feel that they are still 2 to 3 years away for them to become a little bit more matured users of RPA as it stands today.
Why do some organizations feel that RPA may have failed them in terms of their expectations? Can you name 3 of the most common problems associated with RPA implementation?
In fact, what we have seen based on our engagements with customers, typically when they're not very clear on what to expect from the platform and the technology, and they start a project from a technology initiative perspective, it typically tends to fail. So unless and until their business goals and business aspirations are not clear, and what they would like to achieve as a business outcome is not clearly defined with a well-established executive sponsorship within the organizations, then these are all just gimmicks which most of the technology teams do. And these typically tend to fail, right? And that's one thing which we have seen across various customers in this region. We also play a big role in trying to educate them that don't start on a platform or a project implementation unless and until you are clear on where you want to go with the platform and the tool. The tool and platform and technology can only help you that much unless and until you have a vision for RPA, then you will fail on your implementations.
Forrester forecasts that RPA adoption in the region will flatten in 2023. Where do you see the new areas for RPA growth and implementation for 2023 and beyond?
In fact, what we are seeing is kind of contradictory to what probably Forrester has quoted here. In fact, we are seeing customers embracing the capabilities of the platform even beyond traditional historical horizontal processes. They are trying to embrace the platform and technology capabilities for the core business applications and core areas. It is not just for finance, HR, or workforce optimizations like in the past. They're looking for new areas for the core operations like claims processing, for customer onboarding, how they can do faster processing of loans for various customers, as an example in banking. So they are starting to embrace RPA more for the core businesses than having looked at for back office processes, which was historically the initial use cases many of them went towards.
For an organization that has yet to adopt RPA or are struggling with their implementation, how should they address these issues and concerns?
So one thing, which we always propagate with the customers is to look at executive sponsorship being on board. This should be a top-down initiative, not something which is driven from a center of excellence with a bunch of engineers sitting in a corner and trying to, look at, how they innovate and change their business processes end to end. So it has to have a top-down sponsorship from the organization as well. Second, you need to learn the platform and technology before you start scaling within the organization. So you need to train and enable a core team of users as well as core team of technologists within the organizations for you to play around. Look at doing few, pilot processes, 1 or 2 complex ones, 1 or 2 simple processes before you start scaling it within the organization as well, right? So that is the second thing which we have seen many clients fail. The third is it's a change management program, right? It's not a technology program, it's a change management program. And you need to have very clearly defined business outcomes clearly mapped towards what ROIs you're expecting from this program as well. Without having that clear objective in mind, if you just start with an implementation journey, then you're going to be disillusioned with what is the outcome.
How do you get employee buy-in on an RPA journey so that they feel ownership of the project and go along with it with the right expectations?
Yes, great question, Alan. In fact, we are seeing two different set of customers. Right? Customers where they have a centralized center of excellence team, and they try to drive demand as well as expectations of various LOB teams within the organization. So that is one model. We have also seen federated models with a lot of our customers as well, right? Where, as an example, NACF in Korea, which is a cooperative and agricultural commercial financing companies, which is working on financial inclusions for the farmers. In Korea. They have a center of excellence which is just looking at enablement as well as providing the standards on how they roll out this program for various member companies. They're close to around 1,400 members. And here the demand is coming from the member companies with regards to automation ideas, and the center of excellence is just playing an enablement function and enablement roles. This can happen also in large enterprises where finance, HR can start driving their own programs when they start realizing that with the low code, no code capabilities which are coming in with most of the platforms, they can start driving automations at a business user level rather than having to rely on the technology teams. And that's where what we propagate is something known as citizen development, where we want to enable the end users to build their own automations, think of ideas for easing out the pain which they go through on a day-to-day basis for the day-to-day operations in whichever areas it is, whether it's finance or HR, and think of how that can be taken out by automating from using the automation capabilities from what we have to offer as well.
You mentioned the word citizen development. From the CIO or CISO perspective, doesn't encouraging citizen development potentially introduce issues around compliance and standardization? How do you get around that?
No, great question, Alan. Right. Again, the role of a center of excellence. The center of excellence should not be just a technology function. It should have representatives from the business divisions as well, right? So, and they need to qualify and approve on which are the ideas which are coming in from various business teams, and they need to provide standards on what is allowed, what is not allowed, and also educate them on an ongoing basis. It's not a one-off exercise when they onboard new members. It is an ongoing exercise on what are the standards they need to adopt from a coding perspective, what are the standards they need to adopt from a rollout perspective, and how the interoperability happens between humans and bots together on production as well, right? So the ongoing governance model needs to include also the business teams as part of the core center of excellence team as well. Otherwise, this will also become a shadow IT initiatives, which is what I think the CIOs would like to avoid. And we are seeing a lot of enterprises moving towards that right direction and ensuring that they establish the right foundation. But if they fail to do it, again, they will have too many people going in different directions, and getting them all aligned towards a common vision and common goal is going to be a big challenge.
Cognizant of RPA's evolution over the years, in your view, where does it sit in Gartner's hyperautomation vision?
In fact, Gartner has published this vision across different industries. In some industries, it is in disillusionment mode. They feel that there was a lot of hype in the last 5 to 6 years, and it's going down the trough. The way we see it, at least based on the demand we see from our customers, at least in Asia Pacific and Japan, we see this market to grow significantly. We're expecting this market to be around 5.5 billion US by 2025. So which is a big opportunity for us to continue growing. And this kind of demand is only possible when customers are still bought into the idea and they still feel there is more to be realized from a value perspective. How they embrace this platform and technology, if they do it in the right way, and the platform providers are providing them the right support for their success in their journeys, I think we are going to see further growth, at least in the Asia Pacific and Japan region.
Finally, what should leadership remember when they're considering implementing RPA or push forward an RPA strategy for the organization?
Last question to add for you. What is your one advice to leadership? Doesn't have to be the CIO or CFO or anybody in that room, maybe even the line directors. What should they need to remember when they're considering implementing RPA or pushing forward an RPA strategy for the organization?
So one thing they should not forget is the fact that it's an ongoing journey. They should not forget on the fact that they need to also look at the operating model design on how they're going to leverage bots in their day-to-day operations as the business processes stand today. But as the businesses continue to evolve, their operating model needs to change, and the bots, relevance within the business model also needs to change and evolve as well, right? So it's not a bot which is built one time for one-time use that you can continue to use for 5 to 6 years. You need to look at, what are the changing dynamics for the same business process for it to be relevant for making productive use in the, changing scenario for the business as well. I think that's something which people tend to forget. If they build 1,000 bots, they forget that there are 200 bots which are not being productively leveraged by the business because they're working around the bots. There are a lot of manual interventions and manual processes which starts to creep in. So I think ongoing strong governance on how you derive insights from the business processes is extremely critical as well.